At 4 a.m., Russ and I left Houston to fly to Denver, meeting up with the rest of the family on our way to Vietnam for the first time. The flight into Denver had to be some of the best views I have ever seen of that state from a plane. It had snowed or been snowing quite a bit, and it was just stunning that morning. My family got to the airport a few hours after we arrived, and then we were on our way to Vancouver, where we had I think it was 6 or 7 hour long layover, nothing too exciting, a little too short to leave the airport, and it was Christmas Day, so not the best time to be doing it anyways. Then we flew on to Hong Kong, where we had a 30-hour flight, or layover, and I was hopeful that we could leave, but due to all their COVID restrictions and everything, we just decided to stay put in the airport hotel that we stayed at in Hong Kong. It's called the Regal Airport Hotel. So for those of you who don't know, my dad came to America in 1981 after escaping Vietnam, and we have not ever been back as a family. He's been back only a couple of times by himself, but we finally made this trip happen after talking about it for decades. After our night in Hong Kong, we were on to Saigon, or Ho Chi Minh City, where we did a couple days of touring and sightseeing before the wedding of my cousin. At the airport, we arrived to a bunch of family I had never met before, which was really fun. My dad's brother and a couple of his kids and his wife came and picked us up, and we got to see probably one of the most intense cities I've ever seen. It was really amazing, but it was so many people driving in ways we are not used to in the States, but they clearly know what they're doing. Our family then took us out for lunch at this little restaurant. I don't remember what it's called, but there are so many of these. They're kind of like little hole in the walls. You're used to something like New York, very similar, just kind of little gems sprinkled throughout the city that have amazing food, and you really get a taste for the culture and the vibe of the city. It was really, really neat. We then moved on to a little bit of shopping. My mom and I were just gawking at these gorgeous aoyais that are all over the place, and then our family took us to our hotel where they checked us in. It was really nice. They just kind of took care of us while we were there. After we got settled into our rooms and had a little refresh and relax, they took us to another restaurant in the heart of the city. A lot of these restaurants are outdoors with beautiful greenery and scenes all around. Just nothing like I've really seen before, but it was really cool to experience. The next day, my immediate family, along with my aunt from Vietnam, took us out on a little tour of the city and also to Cu Chi, which is where North Vietnamese sympathizers built these amazing and elaborate tunnel systems to fight America in the South. On our way to Cu Chi, our tour guide took us to this artisan location where they make pearl and eggshell art. It was really incredible how they do it, and just beautiful. The craftsmanship is definitely one of a kind. Afterwards, we drove on to Cucci, where we passed these trees. They're actually rubber trees. It's fascinating how they are just all over the country. We were then on to Cucci, where we stopped at the gift shop first, and of course had to try on the hats for the men, and then we checked out the rest of the site with our tour guide who took us around the entire city. He was extremely knowledgeable, gave us a bunch of history and those little fun facts. Right here is the tunnel system. It was several layers deep. It was absolutely incredible that they came up with all of this. During the Vietnam War, the North Vietnamese were definitely overpowered technologically, but they came up with really ingenuitive ways of protecting themselves and fighting back during the war. These are some trap doors, things that were hidden in the ground. At Cucci, they also showed how they make rice paper wraps, which was really interesting. Wasn't something I'd ever put a lot of thought into, but explained why they have those cool little textures on there and how they do it and the skill that it takes. And to start the whole process, you've got to start with the rice flour, which it turned out that my aunt knew exactly how to work this machine, which she took over. And she told us that my dad used to also do this as well in Vietnam. After the tour of Cucci, they treated us to lunch on the Saigon River that sat right next to those tunnels. We then moved on to the Jade Emperor Pagoda. This temple was built in 1909 to honor the Jade Emperor. It was really cute and quaint in the center of Ho Chi Minh. It's really incredible in this city how you'll see very modern buildings, and then you'll see these very old tributes to the past that almost contradict some of the architecture that's all around. These temples and pagodas are scattered throughout Vietnam. They're obviously very popular tourist locations, but the locals also go here to pray and pay their respects towards their religious figures. Our tour guide then took us to this little city square which also had their large post office, which is just an incredible architectural design. The tour ended that afternoon, and for dinner we went to Bingewen Restaurant, which was, again, unlike anything I've ever seen. It was this gigantic restaurant that had the playground. It had a lake in the middle where you could fish for your own fish to eat that they would cook up for you. Just so much to see and do there. It is a restaurant that you have to know about it really to find it, because it's back in this alley that when you're headed that way, you feel like you're going the wrong way. Um, Obviously, our taxi driver knew exactly where to take us. We ended our first full day in Vietnam at this restaurant having dinner with family.